On today's show, Jaylen Green returns to the Phoenix Suns rotation as the Suns get a back-to-back on-the-road W despite some spotty play from their starters. How did they do it? What did Jaylen Green look like? Let's jump into that and much more in this edition of Locked On Phoenix Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. My name is Benjamin Garcia, host of the Ben Garcia Show, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., where we stream on YouTube, talking all things Arizona sports, and a credentialed Phoenix Suns media member covering your Phoenix Suns for the #1 sports podcast network on planet Earth, the Locked On Podcast Network. Wherever you may be listening, however you may be watching, viewing, tuning in to Locked On Phoenix Suns, we appreciate you doing so, making myself and this show a part of your day. But remember, Locked On Phoenix Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button to do what thousands, dare I say millions of Suns fans have already done. Become an everyday and get Locked On the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. Wow, that was fun. The Suns were finally at full health for the first time all season, to where just the thought of seeing all these guys together at one time, regardless of what it looked like, was a joyous sight to see, because we haven't seen it yet outside of one stretch against the Clippers in early November. So the fact that they're all on the floor is the win. And we'll dive deeper into the Suns game, how they did it, what the difference makers was, Devin Booker's late baskets, but we know why we're here. To give an honest assessment on the return of Jaylen Green. It feels like you're saying debut, but it's not. He already debuted in the Suns starting lineup, months ago. He returned. This was the Suns' big trade deadline acquisition without having to send out any players. A Jaylen Green insert into the Suns rotation. I almost joked around with people on social media when I saw that Amanda Pflugrad, who does amazing work for the Suns sideline reporting, that Jaylen Green was going to come off the bench. I almost jokingly quote tweeted it and said, "Oh, looks like I'm taking my victory lap. Jordan Ott agrees with me. Jaylen Green should come off the bench," which I've obviously pulled back on that take just a little bit. But we all knew that there was going to be a minute restriction for Jaylen Green, but everyone would have thought I was being serious when I was really just joking around. So I didn't put that out there. Jaylen Green came off the bench, and it was the absolute correct thing for the Suns to do. This is, obviously, when he's back, he'll be in the starting lineup, and that's probably where he should be, even though we've had fun thought exercises of what it might look like if he came off the bench. The right thing to do right now is to bring him as a starter, because you got to see what you got from him in that Kevin Durant trade. And if he can truly become that secondary best player to Devin Booker and help achieve this team to the next great stature of what they want to be, and that being the next great Phoenix Suns team. And the Suns were conservative with Jaylen Green. They said there was going to be a minute restriction. We didn't get exactly what that minute restriction was. That makes sense that they didn't give it to us. It turned out it was 20 minutes. And as soon as that hit the 20-minute mark, they ripped Jaylen Green right out of that game. That is the kind of conservative approach, careful approach that the Suns have to exercise with Jaylen Green. The hamstring injury, re-aggravating it once is like made a mistake, but you can't do that again. If he pulled his hamstring again in tonight or tomorrow because he's playing too much, or he's in the starting lineup too early, or he's doing too much early, you're talking about maybe losing him for the year. Those hamstrings are tricky. But the step number one process of tonight with Jaylen Green is not how he played. I don't care about that. I don't care that he was 4 for 11 tonight. I don't care that he was a little inefficient. How did he look? We knew Jaylen Green was going to come out and have some rust. He hasn't played real basketball in 2 months, even for professionals. It's hard to come out of that and it's hard to be a team, or it's hard to be anyone that doesn't do anything for 2 months, even as a professional, and come out and do it to the best of your ability and not have some rust to it. So there was clearly some rust tonight for Jaylen Green. That obviously played a factor, and that's totally okay. He was 4 for 11 tonight, as I just mentioned. He had 12 points. I think 2 of those points came off of free throws, if I'm not mistaken. For some reason, Yeah, 2 of them came from free throws. That was right at the beginning of this game. But it doesn't matter. He could have went 0 for 20 in this game. What mattered for me is not the statistics. It was the eye test. How did Jaylen Green look? And to me, he looked fast. He looked explosive. He had that quick first step that we were promised that we were going to get from Bradley Beal in the trade that you made for him. When the Suns traded for Bradley Beal, one of the things that I really loved about Bradley Beal is he's got this quick first step that when you beat someone off the dribble right immediately at the top of the key or from the wing or whatever, it is such an advantage, especially with those long arms that Jaylen Green possesses, to get to the rim and do it efficiently. And that was the first thing I wanted to see with Jaylen Green. Does he have that quick first step? And that explosive step that you saw from him was there. And that's what you need to see from him. Did he look healthy? When he falls to the floor, is he grimacing at all? Or is he walking gingerly? None of that was the case. There was a couple of times today where he did fit the floor. And you were like, oh man, is he okay? Like, what is this going to look like? Perfectly fine. Looked perfectly fine. And like that's a credit to the Suns training staff, getting him ready for this moment. And he had a couple of moments where you're like, oh, I saw it. There it is. There's that 23-year-old athleticism getting to the basket, fadeaway jumpers, and you see it in spurts. The question with Jaylen Green is, can we stop doing a lot of this for my audio audience up and down? Can we not do the roller coaster ride? Can we get more of this consistent play where maybe you bring down some of the ceiling for him, but you eliminate the floor to get a more consistent player? And we got that in his first couple of games as a Phoenix Sun in the first 5 quarters. In this game right here, we didn't really get that, but he hadn't played basketball in 2 months. What we saw was the flashes, the spurts, and the fact that he looked healthy, and that's what matters to me. That's the element that this Suns team is missing. No one on this team is as explosive or as athletic as Jaylen Green. If he can put it all together and do a little bit more of this Suns team could be incredibly scary. So I don't care that he wasn't efficient from the field tonight. I don't care that he didn't have 25 points. This was all I wanted to see. And then slowly but surely take incremental steps to becoming that player, which is Devin Booker's running mate for years to come. But the main thing that mattered from Jaylen Green's return tonight was not his points, was not his statistics, was not his efficiency, is what did he look like with the ball in his hand? Did he look healthy? And 110%, that eye test was passed. He looked quick off his feet. He had an explosive first step that we were promised that we were going to get with Bradley Beal, but never did. And with those long arms, it's going to help him be really efficient at the basket. We saw him make timely passes to Oso Ighodaro in the painted area and consistently making the right decisions. So the fact that he didn't score 20 points tonight, I don't care. Was the shell of what you're trying to get from him there, and I saw it. But even more than that, he looked healthy. He looked explosive. He was attacking the basket. He played with no remorse and a 0 to 60 in 0.5 seconds type of basketball that this team is desperately missing. So from the first game of Jaylen Green being back, if I'm giving it a letter grade, to me, it's probably like a B+. That was exactly what I wanted to see. Now, as time goes on, as games go by, I'm going to expect a little bit more. But tonight, knock off the rust, man. Get your feet wet, get acclimated to what's going on around you. And then as time progresses, we'll raise the stakes. But outside of that Jaylen Green he looked surprisingly really healthy tonight and ready to go right off the jump. The one thing from Jaylen Green that I was just on the Suns Jam Session podcast with my guy, John Voida. And I mentioned this on the show, and that's why you're getting this one a little bit later. I said, there was one glimpse of bad Jalen Green. Nope, no, don't do that. That you're not supposed to be doing that. That's Houston Jalen Green. And it was one negative from him out of the 20 minutes he played. That's a pretty good ratio. It was in the 3-minute mark where the Suns were up by about, I think it was 7 points with 3 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. He drove to the basket and there were guys open on the perimeter and he threw some random BS up at the basket and it was a horrendous miss. And that's what led him to be an inefficient player at the rim last year. Throwing up random stuff when you don't got to do that. Just kick it out. Just kick it out. You've got shooters around you. In Houston, you didn't have that. So those kind of habits, they'll die off. They'll die off as he continues to play for this team. But that right there was the thing with Jaylen Green, which I was just a little concerned about. One thing, we don't got to do all this at the basket. Throw up some 360 under the, reverse layup late in a game where you're trying to put the game away. Just kick it out and we'll get the ball back to you. But again, one mistake that reminded me of some of his inefficiencies last year does not outweigh all the promise that we saw tonight. Tonight is a good night. And the Suns get the win. And some of it had to do with timely buckets from Jalen Green and the fact his sheer gravity on the floor made it to where the opposing team had to account for him. And that matters. Jordan Ott's greatest success story this year is one player who I don't think I would have thought I'd been saying this about on January 20th, or maybe when you're listening to this on 21st. When am I talking about it? Let's talk about it next. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better every Friday night before the game tips off. FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with the NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during NBA Happy Hour always brings something new, boosts, bonuses, and surprises. An easy way to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. So Jordan Ott's greatest success story this season is none other than Oso Ighodaro. I have been so infatuated, which has been a clear transformation from hatred to watching Oso Ighodaro play basketball. At the beginning of the season, I felt like I was beating off fanboys with a stick left and right. Oso Ighodaro was like, I don't know, the second or third best player in tonight's game. If we're really ranking them, I think Jordan Goodwin was probably the best. Grayson Allen was right there with him. And I think Oso as well, who is Jordan Ott's greatest success story from year to date. Oso Ighodaro was a player in the beginning of the season who was lost defensively. I had to hear people on social media tell me that he was a good defender. He was not. He was a bad defender. He was late to rotations. I thought his footwork was sloppy. Offensively, he had a push shot and he passed the ball well, but teams would just dare him to kind of shoot the ball. They'd leave him open. And we saw this version of Oso that he's currently playing with right now in the Summer League. And we saw him in the Summer League really play with a sense of confidence that I belong on the court. I will dominate these younger, non-superior players. And I was begging for that to translate into the regular season, and it just didn't until about 3 weeks ago. Oso is playing with a sense of aggressiveness at the basket that is now a new tool in his offensive game. It's like a pitcher in baseball. If you want to be a viable pitcher in baseball, you got to throw 3 pitches. You can't throw fastball, off speed, fastball, off speed. At some point, you're going to have telltale signs that hitters are going to eat you alive. Oso Ighodaro has to have that 3rd pitch. I'm not asking for Oso to shoot 3 balls. That's what other people have done. I've never done that. I've asked him to develop some sort of semblance of an offensive game, and I have cited specifically getting to the basket and being aggressive and suck in the defense just enough to where it opens up passing lanes and you can kick, and he can kick it out to someone else. And that is the strength to Oso. And he is playing with a sense of aggressiveness offensively, attacking the basket to where now he has another pitch, so to speak. Has the push shot, has the ability to get to the basket, and can kick out to shooters relatively with ease or find a cutting player, which is going to help Jaylen Green. That is, and I think some of that has to do with the confidence we've talked about with Oso Ighodaro. He is a confidence player, meaning you've got to instill that confidence in him. And I've mentioned what I saw on the Old Man in the 3 podcast with Colin Gillespie and Jordan Goodwin, Ryan Dunn and Mark Williams, where they talked about the confidence that Jordan Ott has instilled in players, especially Jordan Goodwin. That was a big highlight of that episode. And I can't help but think that that is not rubbed off on Oso Ighodaro. Maybe it's Dylan Brooks as well rubbing off on him. But defensively, he is much better. He's not swiping down on defenders in the low post and committing ridiculous fouls. If he's fouling him hard. And he's making it a point to be a good defender, especially down low. And then offensively, he's adding things to his game. He has become a night and day player aggressive-wise, and that's just a hard switch to flip mentally. But credit to Jordan Ott, who has helped him flip it into a more confident and complete basketball player. So, my sweet baby Oso Ighodaro. We're not retiring the name. I know I haven't called him Sweet Baby Oso yet. I know you guys like the name. But my sweet baby Oso, he's growing up right before our very eyes. But he'll always be my sweet baby Oso to me. My sweet, sweet baby Oso Ighodaro. So props to him. Flowers to him. Really interesting. So the Suns' rotation tonight was interesting. One of the things I've talked about, and listen, we won't dive into it. You guys don't want to hear any more about potential trade stuff. You guys have heard my piece on that. I'll try to keep that stuff to a minimum. It's kind of hard not to mention it when I see the Suns getting pounded on the boards or points in the paint, but more on that sort of speak without the trades at a minute. The Suns have to find minutes for Jalen Green because they've got literally 6 guards, and I'm not going to name them all, who are quality players that would play on other teams. We've been mentioning before on this show just how good Ryan Dunn has been shooting the 3 ball over the last couple of weeks. He's been shooting it at 50% clip from 3, which is just something that continues to evolve for Ryan Dunn. And we've also talked about, again, just a second ago, how many guards this Phoenix Suns team has and what it is going to look like when Jordan Ott has to actually make a decision and figure out where all these guys are going to play. And I just didn't expect tonight for it to come at the expense of Ryan Dunn's minutes, who only played 9 minutes tonight. Now, I wouldn't expect this to be status quo for the Phoenix Suns over the next couple of weeks on what the rotation is going to look like. The Suns got away with this tonight because the Philadelphia 76ers, with no Paul George, with no Joel Embiid, are a smaller team. VJ Edgecombe's a small player. Tyrese Maxey is a 6-foot player even. When you are playing against these smaller teams, yeah, like absolutely, I could see the Suns pulling out a Royce O'Neal or pulling out a Ryan Dunn and inserting a Colin Gillespie or inserting a Jordan Goodwin for more minutes in that night because it's all so matchup dependent. But in terms of what it is going to look like for the future, I would be surprised if Ryan Dunn continues to lose minutes. Now it's a one-time thing. Who knows what it's going to look like? But Ryan Dunn as an element to this team, both defensively and to a height and length standpoint, that other players on this roster just cannot add. Even though I love Colin Gillespie, he's a smaller player. And the Suns already have a rebounding problem. And for someone like Ryan Dunn, who is an excellent rebounder and an excellent defender, they're going to need that from him. So tonight, it totally makes sense. You're playing a smaller 76ers team who's out there 7-footer, Joel Embiid, and their 6'8", 6'9" guy in Paul George, and you're playing a smaller lineup. I totally get it. But I don't expect that to be the thing for the future. I expect Colin Gillespie or Jordan Goodwin or Jamari Bouyer's minutes are absolutely gone. But those two other guys, those will be cut a little bit to find space for Jaylen Green in this offense and in this rotation. But tonight, it was at the expense of Ryan Dunn, and I understood it. But I don't think that can continue to happen as frequently as maybe other people thought after watching tonight. Because teams will expose the fact that you were a smaller team, both on the boards and defensively, if you allow them to do that. And this is a big man's league. It is historically a big man's league. And so I thought it was interesting tonight that Ryan Dunn was the one to first lose minutes until you looked at who the 76ers were down tonight. And it makes sense to you. It makes sense then. Okay, this is matchup dependent. It's going to stay matchup dependent, but still something that you have to keep a close eye on over the next couple of weeks, what it's going to look like with Jordan Ott kind of tinkering with this rotation now with Jalen Green back in the fold. All right, let's close it out. What stood out? Who else looked good? We haven't talked about Devin Booker yet. Let's do that and much more next. Today's episode is brought to you by the lovely folks over at Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our businesses and think there's got to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communication is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why this episode is brought to you by Quo. Both QUO, the smarter way to run your business communication. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner. You're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can keep your existing number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise that is the #1 rated phone system on G2, trusted more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's Quo, QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo. No missed customers, no missed calls. Reminder, we did launch our Everydayer Club. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Podcast Network your #1 and favorite sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our Everydayer Club. It's access to an ad-free audio version of Locked On Phoenix Suns. I know some of you don't really love the ads and you want to get away from that. That's a way to do so with the Everydayer Club. Plus a bunch of other great perks for just only a few extra shekels a month. It's an invite also to the Everydayer members-only Discord server for Locked On Phoenix Suns. So go to lockedonsuns.simplecast.com for you guys to go check that out right there, or go in the show notes if you're listening on audio, or go in the episode description as well. Okay, so I want to talk about Devin Booker tonight, who wasn't great in terms of shooting the basketball. What matters to me is how he finished the game. That's what separates stars and superstars, and Devin Booker is definitely a star with the heights and ceiling of being a superstar. He was really great in the clutch tonight. Didn't love the fact that he had 6 turnovers in this game. He was 9 for 23 from the field. You just expect that number to become more efficient as Jaylen Green steps more into the fold, and his gravity then will allow Devin Booker a little bit easier of a path to hit some buckets. But tonight wasn't great. 9 for 23. At one point, he was shooting 50%. I believe it was 8 for 16 from the field. He only made 1 shot out of his next 7, and that 1 shot was massive late in this game. So that kind of stuff matters. He got to the free throw line. He was 7 for 7. Fun statistic for you guys. The Suns shot 20 free throws tonight, and they made 20 of them. 100% from the free throw line tonight. That is called making the opposing team pay for fouling you. As well as other box score oddities for tonight. The Suns were 43% from the field, 41% from three, but they got out rebounded again. 49-42 in the rebounding discrepancy, 18-15 the offensive rebound discrepancy, and they had 22 turnovers tonight, and they also were out-painted in the pointed area. Were out-pointsed in the painted area, 46-34. So the Suns' small woes continue. They continuously give up points in the paint. They give up, bad turnovers. They had 22 of them tonight. It felt like half of those had nothing to do with the fact that the Philadelphia 76ers earned that turnover. It was just the Suns making sloppy passes, which again, those things have to be cleaned up and they have to be better. But here's an interesting thought for you guys. I was just on the Suns Jam Session podcast with my guy, John Voida. That's why I'm obviously late to put this up tonight. This will be up in about, 10, 15 minutes here. We're about to close out the show. But this is something I hadn't really thought of. My guy, John Voida, mentioned it to me. The Suns are a bad rebounding team. They're especially against these teams, they're a bad rebounding team. And points in the paint, not great either. But there's no such thing as a perfect team in the NBA. Every team's got a weakness, every single team. Even the Oklahoma City Thunder, it might just be complacency and the fact that it's hard to go back-to-back twice. Like the mental toll it takes on you, it's tough. Like that could be a weakness. The Suns' weakness is they get out-rebounded a lot. They get out, they give up a lot of points in the paint. They get outscored there. What if the way the Suns combat that is they're turning their turnovers that they commit, they're turning opposing teams' turnovers into points the other direction. What if that's the way that they combat being such a bad team in the painted area? And what I mean by that is the Suns forced 19 turnovers tonight, but they only got 21 points off those turnovers. If the Suns could creep that up more and they start getting 30 points off turnovers from 19 turnovers, that I don't think is unattainable at all. What if they could be that team instead of trading for anyone? Instead of making any, crazy decisions? Grayson Allen was great again tonight. What if they just start to become a better team, getting points off turnovers, making opposing teams pay for turning over the basketball? It was just an interesting thought exercise my guy John Voida threw at me, and I was like, well, that could be it too. Fast break points tonight. What if the Suns become better on the fast break? Make them pay in the fast break for committing turnovers. That is a way the Suns can combat that points in the painted area and giving up as many rebounds and possessions that they give up. That, I think, is an interesting way to look at it. Instead of trading anyone, move Oso to the 4, get a little bit bigger, obviously, and just start being better at getting points off turnovers. That is an interesting way to look at it. And I never thought about it like that. And it could save the Suns by keeping some of these core players. And I think I feel like that's better. The other thing is the Suns have a turnover problem. They're one of the worst assist to turnover ratio teams in the NBA. They are 25th in the NBA in assist to turnover ratio. And tonight, 22 turnovers. They've got to do a better job taking care of the basketball. They've got to do a better job. The Suns right now, for every 1.5 turnover or 1.5 assists they have, they turn over the basketball. That's not good enough. And it will get exploited in the postseason. And tonight, 22 turnovers. That's got to be cleaned up. And honestly, that's a Jordan Ott thing. That's an accountability thing. You got to get on these players when they're not being better with the basketball. But overall, Suns get a win on the road. Back-to-back wins against 2 Eastern Conference foes. The Suns have passed already the road trip. I wanted them to go 500. They have a chance to go 4-2 in this road trip. That's awesome. That's great. And then they get back home for 5 straight games. We'll see if the Suns can do that against the Atlanta Hawks, which Atlanta Hawks are a very valiant opponent who I think match up really well with the Phoenix Suns. Long, lengthy defenders that can make life kind of tough on Devin Booker. So we'll see how that goes on Friday. For me, hit that like, share, subscribe button. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. Appreciate you guys tuning into Locked On Phoenix Suns. Hit me up in the comment section about things maybe you want me to talk about later in the week. Until then, hit that like, share, subscribe button. I'm Benjamin Garcia. Follow me on all social media platforms at Ben Garcia Show. And it's been Locked On Phoenix Suns. Talk to you guys tomorrow.